So I really love this word epiphany. Of course, I understand that historically this was a word quite often referred to in the Christian tradition in a religious context. But I think in today's world, we can refer to this word in the secular sense as well. And of course, it touches upon the transcendental, which I really think is an important aspect of our life, especially as concerning the phenomenological aspects of our experience. Anyway, when you study your brain, you realize that there are many moments of inspiration, insight, and realization, and the aha moments, and it's quite interesting that there's a kind of a Richter scale of the soul, meaning there are many different magnitude of these one-shot learning moments, and epiphany would be at the largest of these scales. I mean, it will be really rare, and when epiphany happens, you would be transfigured. You'll be a different person. You would see the world in a different manner. For example, in my view, in my own life, when I was 31, when I was doing research on the brain in Riken Institute, I had this realization on the moving train that the world is actually made of qualia. I mean, our phenomenal experience is characterized by these sensory qualities, and up until then, I was trained as a physicist, and I assumed that everything in the world would ultimately be, described in numerical equations. And of course, when you ask about the objective behavior of things, including our brain, that is a valid standpoint up to now, and I do believe that our bodies and our brain and so on, and even our consciousness probably would obey these causal roles. But on top of that, we have this qualia, and that realization, that epiphany, literally changed my life. Ever since I have been trying probably in a futile game to elucidate how consciousness arises from the brain activities, and that was an epiphany. And so that was one example of epiphany. I'm sure you would have different instances of epiphany in your life, but it's quite different from the small scale aha moments that you might have in your life. And an epiphany would be life changing, and it's quite interesting. James Joyce, in his magnus opus. Well, he had actually many magnus opuses. I mean, Finnegan's Wake and Ulysses and so on. So we cannot say it's the magnus opus. It's one of his magnus opuses. I don't know. I'm not so knowledgeable about Latin grammar, so I don't know how to say it. But anyway, there you are. And James Joyce writes about epiphanies that people encounter in his collection of short novels, Dubliners. I mean, in every short story in Dubliners, the protagonist had some moment of epiphany. So it's a deeply religious novel as well as a secular novel, and that was the genius of James Joyce. My favorite from my elementary school days, Anne of Green Gables, is a novel about epiphany. Lucy Maud Montgomery writes how two aged brothers and sisters, Matthew and Maria, has moments of epiphany by welcoming this girl from the asylum, orphanage, Anne Shirley, and their life is literally changed, transfigured, beyond recognition by encountering Anne Shirley. So Anne Shirley is an embodiment of epiphany. So, we can talk about epiphany. Of course, we can talk about Jesus Christ and the significance of epiphany in the religious tradition. And by the way, I am an agnostic, and I actually, for short of calling myself an atheist, I do respect the arguments by Richard Dawkins and Ricky Gervais and so on, but I do not think that's the final answer. Actually, I'm writing a book manuscript on that. I don't think that declaring that you're an atheist and attacking all these religious tradition is necessarily intellectually interesting thing to do at this moment. I mean, it's a no-brainer in my life from my perspective. So I'm writing something on that. Anyway, having said that, epiphany in the religious tradition is also interesting to study. So I think on top of that, we can have secular interpretation of this thing, epiphany. And I do believe that it is a really important aspect of life. So wait for your next epiphany. I think that could be a really great motto for life, because when you have this anticipation, expectation that you might have an epiphany at any moment, then your life would be clearly, something worth living for. I mean, because many people lose their purpose in life, and many people feel powerless. That's understandable. That can happen to people from time to time. But if you have this anticipation of a probable epiphany in your life, at any moment, like that moment on the train in the Tokyo suburb when I had realized that I actually my experience full of Korea. That was the greatest epiphany in my life so far. That can happen at any moment. I mean, so live in a great expectation of your next epiphany. I think that's a really wonderful, ethos to live by. And I hope you will have your great epiphany sometime. And I wish I could have some great epiphany, especially in tools solving the mind-brain problem. Anyway, so here's to epiphany, and here's to all the kitchens in the world and all those people who live their lives diligently and honestly, and who have opening in the mind for the next epiphany. So here's to all our epiphanies. Meow.